another episode that I shot some comments for, and that I was peripherally involved in the man's career. That was his only run where he wasn't as successful as he was everywhere else. Vader gets an episode this season.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, very excited about that. Just one of my favorites, again, from childhood in terms of that, super heavyweight, big man, strong man character. Always a huge fan of his stuff in Japan with that crazy mask, with the steam coming out of it. Yeah. Incredible. It's incredible stuff. So, yeah, this episode is, again, very family based as well. His ex-wife is in there, his son, and they're tremendous in the episode. The story covers a lot of the development of, his incredibly stiff strongman style, and also contrasting his very emotional volatility at times. He sort of had that. He had that. And how he broke into the business. I think he broke in with Brody and Stan in the same locker room, and they sort of kind of beat the shit out of him and kind of showed him what it was all about. Obviously he comes from the Hard Knocks football background, of course, too. But you can see the development of that and how he came in, and then he was chosen for that big Van Vader gimmick in Japan, and so the sort of the creation of that monster character. As I said, it dives into the dichotomy, of his intense performance and his intense physicality, and just somebody who really had a, very sensitive and volatile inner side. It gets into
he could swing from a wrecking ball to a teddy bear in like the twinkling of an eye, right?
Yes. And I think one moment that really illustrates that is the incident that occurred with Joe Thurman. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, the power bomb gone somewhat awry.
Yeah. So Joe's in the episode, which is interesting. And I don't think he's really ever talked much about that incident. But he describes basically, Vader, I don't know, a switch went off and he saw red and just became this vicious monster when the bell rang. And then, following what was pretty much like a temporary paralysis moment that, what happened to Joe after you see that, the moves he took and how kind of careless Vader was in the ring with him, that he instantly was just like an emotional wreck after that, Vader was, in terms of what he had done to somebody else, so that is kind of part of his, emotional makeup, if you will,
and part of it, I've talked about, the biggest comment I always have is Vince never got Leon.
Yes.
Vince never got Leon, and Leon didn't get Vince.
Mm-hmm.
And, part of it may have been because, other pro football players have made the successful transition,
right?
Whether they played for just a few years or a number of years in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But Leon just always had that football mentality of, here's how I should be treated, and here's that blah, 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 standing up. And I guess they have a union over there in football. And it worked for him when he was taking care of himself in the Wild West, like Brody did in Japan or, in Mexico or whatever. But when he got into the Vince environment, Leon hadn't been a lifelong wrestling fan, got into business late. Vince saw a whole different person. He had never seen the Vader that everybody else in the world knew because he wasn't watching.
Right.
And it didn't connect. That was, and I get the opportunity to manage Vader, the only place that he ever wrestled after his rookie year where he wasn't the world champion. But go on, Evan.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, you mentioned in the episode about how Vince didn't have much of a frame of reference for him. And so it was kind of this idea, you have to know how to position somebody like that. When you're given a monster heel like that, a one of a kind one, especially. And it seemed like it never really connected. Obviously, he was pretty banged up at that time too, I think. And so he was slowing down a bit, and
right.
his weight was getting heavier. And JR talks about this.
The weight clause.
the weight class, right? Right. And JR's kind of
Hey,
response. Yeah.
Steen in Ring of Honor was pissed off. I said, just lose 40 pounds for your health and performance sake, right? I said, do
Yeah.
we have to put a weight clause in your contract? He's like, what the fuck? I said, hey, if Vince can do it to Vader, we can do it to you.
Right. Yeah. And you kind of get a peek into just the talent management side of things, through JR, who kind of has to deal with trying to get Vader, healthier. And I think he enrolled Vader and Yokozuna into this kind of university program that had a weight loss.
Duke.
Yeah, Duke, right.
They didn't go at the same time because I was monitoring Yoko when he was there.
Okay.
I've told that story, but I want to say I don't know that Leon ever actually went. I
really?
think they wanted to. I don't know now. JR may have a firmer memory, but I think they wanted him to, and somehow he avoided it. But he might have gone. There was talk of it.
Yeah, I think JR mentioned, maybe he's conflating the stories or whatnot, but he was mentioning how, like, he found out, I wasn't sure if this was Yoko or Vader, both, whatever, that, he found out that somebody was smuggling in fried chicken.
That was Yoko.
Got it, right. Yeah,
that was Yoko. He had actually, that was the joke in the office. We sent Yokozuna to the Duke weight loss clinic and he ate it.
Right.
But anyway, back to Leon, though.
Yeah.
That's another episode this season. And again, I've mentioned this before, but I love the subjects that you guys have the opportunity to cover. Now that the first couple of seasons, we got to have the big names, right? Because you're proving yourself. But now that you got the track record and you blow all the competition away, you can go into some of the things, because when has Vader ever really been featured? Any Vader footage or whatever by any of the WWE authorized programming?